Hare Krishna. Good morning, New York.
Hare Krishna.
So I'm still in Bulgaria. Today we will start discussing the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Omajnana Tirandasya Jnana Shlakam Sakshvin Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. So the last two sessions we went to the whole 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and at the end of the 4th chapter, Krishna said that all kinds of sacrificial work culminate in knowledge. But then in the last verse of the 4th chapter, Krishna said, Arjuna, wake up and fight, be situated in perfect knowledge. So, by simultaneously stressing the importance of the importance of work in devotion, in knowledge, and inaction in knowledge, Arjuna was perplexed, that confused, like he was confused at the beginning of the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, the 5th chapter also starts with a similar question to the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So Arjuna is asking, which is better, work in devotion or renunciation of work? And we will hear Lord Krishna's reply in the first 9 verses. So we will go today to the entire 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So this 5th chapter gives more details than the 3rd chapter. It addresses also karma yoga, action in devotion, but after hearing the 4th chapter, in the 5th chapter, Krishna gives much more details on how to practically execute devotional service. And we'll see that in the last part of this chapter, Krishna gives all symptoms of self-realized souls, all spiritual techniques we can apply in the execution of devotional service, which is the perfect karma yoga. So the first verse, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, first one. Arjuna Uvacha. Sanyasa karmanam Krishna Puna Yoga Sasamsasi Yashvayaritam Tanme Bhu Sunishitam. Arjuna said, Krishna, first of all you ask me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? So in this first part, Lord Krishna is here, well, Arjuna is asking a question, and Lord Krishna replies that, so the first thing, because Arjuna is confused, because Krishna is stressed work in devotion and inaction in knowledge. Arjuna, he thinks that renunciation must involve stopping all kinds of work. Because work and renunciation, for him, it's incompatible. He has not really understood that to work in full knowledge causes no reaction. And therefore it's the same as inaction, materially. So inquires therefore whether he should cease work altogether or work with full knowledge. What is now better? And Krishna will answer. In summary, he will say devotional service is better than renunciation. Then he will give a definition of what's renounced, not being attached to aversion, or no aversion of attachment, not hating the results not of his activities, hating or being attached. And he will explain that Karma Yoga, devotional service, and Sankhya, study of the analytical study, it's the same, because both are concerned with the root. And then he will explain that, yes, it's the same, because the attachment for Mother and attachment to Krishna is the same. But devotional service is more easy, will I explain. Renunciation is very difficult. Now, that's just a summary of what's coming now. Now we will look at this in detail. So this is a summary. Then verse 1. This is Arjuna's doubt according to Vishwanath Chakrabarti. It is not possible to perform both renunciation of action and karma yoga. And because there is essential contradiction between the two, just as there is contradiction between remaining stationary and moving. So, renouncing or action, that seems contradictory, but it is not. Because the action in devotional service is without reaction, and because it is renounced. Renounced means real renunciation, means giving up the fruits of one's activities, knowing everything belongs to Krishna. Therefore, we are using it in his service. So that's the difference. Srila Rupa Goswami says, renunciation is only complete. It's only complete when we understand that everything belongs to Krishna and is meant for his service. It's like someone loses his wallet on the street. Last year I was in New York City, in Manhattan, and I was walking on the street and I saw a biker. A biker was passing very quickly on his bike, but he had in his back pocket his wallet, and his wallet fell on the street, and immediately 10 homeless people started to fight for this wallet. So you can have different reactions. You find a wallet on the street and you think, oh, this is my lucky day. And you use the money for your own sense gratification. But a second reaction could be, oh, there's a wallet on the street, that's not mine. I leave it there. That has nothing to do with it. That's the jnani. It comes to the conclusion, I'm spirit, not matter. I have nothing to do with it. Just leave it there. It's not concerned who is the real owner of the wallet. But the third one comes and sees the wallet, picks it up, opens it, finds the driving license, gets the address of the person, and finds the person and gives it back. So that's the devotee. That's real renunciation. We see everything belongs to Krishna. Oh, nice flower. Let me offer it to Krishna. We give it back to Krishna. And that's perfect renunciation, understanding to whom it belongs. So these are different forms of renunciation. But the highest renunciation is action in Krishna consciousness, in which we understand everything belongs to Krishna and we offer it to the Supreme Lord. Now, the next verse, I will read the next verse too. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Sanyasa Karma Yoga Nishresa Krava Bhaitais Karma Sanyasa Karma Yoga Vasishyate. Personality of Godhead replied, renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotion is better than renunciation. Why? Because just renouncing something, it's not going to purify the heart. That's not helping with purifying the material desires stay there. You want to enjoy it, but you say, I renounce it. But the desire to enjoy is still there. So unless one acts as a spirit soul, one cannot attain liberation. Renunciation without Krishna consciousness is incomplete. And one has the risk of falling down. What does real renunciation means? It means to understand that everything belongs to Krishna and therefore should be used in his service. Activities performed with this knowledge that strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. Therefore, Baldev Vidyabhushan said Karma Yoga is better because it's easier than renouncing. You are engaging the senses. That's what the senses want. The tongue wants to eat, so we eat Krishna Prasad. That it's much more easier and it's safer. Because he says it contains jnana within. Because by acting with the knowledge that everything belongs to Krishna and is for his enjoyment, then by giving pleasure to Krishna in that way, we become purified. And purified means that your covering of illusion is taken away and you get knowledge. So there is knowledge inside, that it contains knowledge, Karma Yoga. With Sankhya Yoga, there is no knowledge of development from within. There's no realization. Knowledge means realization in that sense. Realization means becoming detached from this world. You become averse to this sense gratification. And you get taste of serving Krishna. That's real jnana. Krishna gives us to the heart. Now we have this definition of real renunciation by Srila Rupa Goswami. So that's the famous verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It says that renunciation is complete when it is in the knowledge that everything in existence belongs to the Lord and that no one should claim proprietorship over anything. Since everything belongs to Krishna, everything should be employed in Krishna's service. So that's real renunciation. Renunciation in verse 3, real renunciation is defined by Krishna in the next verse, verse 3. Yeas nitya sanyasi yonat vestina kankshati nirtan foimaubau sukham bandhat vamuchati. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from dualities, overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, Almighty Arjuna. So one neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities. So one in Krishna consciousness is always a renouncer, because he does not feel hatred nor desire the results of his activities. So in his mind there is no duality, because whatever he does is for Krishna. He becomes freed from the platform of dualities, is liberated, even in the material world. So that is verse 3 on that. So the devotee is single-minded, engaged in devotional service, only wanting to please the Supreme Lord, who is the proprietor of everything. But all the other people are the other side, that they are absorbed in desire and hate, because they make differentiation between enemies, friends, and their lives becomes very troublesome. So after defining the here renunciation, Krishna continues answering the question of Arjuna: what is best, karma yoga or Sankhya yoga, devotional service, action in Krishna consciousness, or study of the material elements, of the material analytical study? So Krishna says, yes, both. It said that there is no difference between both devotional service and this analytical study of the material world. Why? Because the aim of both is Vishnu. The Sankhya, the analytical study, their process is to find the root of existence, of everything. And what is the root? Vishnu. That's see, Karnodakashaya Vishnu, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, the Purusha avatars who perform the creation. The root is Vishnu. And the devotee, he knows already that the root is Krishna or Vishnu. He waters the root with devotional service. So they are both concerned with the root of existence, Vishnu. So in that way, Krishna says, yes, their aim is the same. And their processes, they may look different, Krishna says in the next verse, but in essence, they are the same. And that's interesting. Verse 5. That there Krishna says, that verse 5, Yat Sankhya Papnestatam Tatkuyas Apkamyate Ekasam Sayapasar Sapashati. One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are. So what is Krishna saying here? That he's saying that being detached from matter or attached to Krishna is the same. So the sannyasis renounced, but here it's more those who are striving for detachment only, they are more the Sankhya philosophers or the impersonalist sannyasis. It's not Prabhupada, but they are also sannyasis because they become detached. But the devotee becomes attached to Krishna. You see the gopis, the gopas, even the deer, everyone becomes attached to Krishna. If one becomes attached to Krishna, what happens? You lose your attachment for this world completely. It's gone. So it's a gradual process, but we lose our attachment for this world. So we become detached automatically. Detachments of the Sankhya philosopher or the impersonalist, that's not real detachment. Because they don't know that everything belongs to Krishna. If everything belongs to Krishna and not to us, why should we be attached? It's like saying that I'm detached from the house of my nature, of my neighbor. I'm detached from that house. But it does not belong to them. What's the use to say that? Or the impersonalist Mayavadi renunciant says, I'm detached from my wife, or my house, my wealth, my children, my. But it's not from them, it's from Krishna. It's a kind of insanity. That's what it really is. It's not real renunciation. Real renunciation is becoming attached to Krishna. And that's a more easy process, becoming attached to Krishna, than superficially renounce. Impersonalist has to give up eating, control his senses, and so on. We control our senses by eating prasad. We control our senses by engaging in loving devotional activities. It's much more easy and more effective. And that's explained in the next verse. That because artificially it appears that Sankhya or study of the material elements, the study of this is spirit, this is matter, I'm spirit, I'm not matter, and so on, that this involves detachment from matter, but that's superficial. And superficially, it appears that the devotional service means attachment to work. But they are the same, Krishna says, because one is attached to Krishna, automatically detached from matter. But this renunciation, this Sankhya, is a very difficult process. And that is explained in verse 6. Sanyastamavo dukkhamaptama yukta yoga yukta nirmana nashrena gacchati. Merely announcing of activities and yet not engaging in devotional service cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. So they are announcing stopping eating practically. It is very difficult. You have always to say no to the senses. No. And the mind becomes very dry. It's very difficult. But the devotee, he engages everything in devotional service and he engages the senses in devotional service. They are busy. You can eat. You don't have to follow the strict rules of renunciation. You follow the principles of devotional service. So in the next verses, Krishna will explain the symptoms, the acts, and the attainment of a karma yogi who is acting in Krishna consciousness. So if a devotee becomes advanced, then what's happening to such a devotee? That's explained in verse 7. So Yoga Yukta Vishutatma Vishitatma Chaitandriya Sarvaputatma Bhutatma Kovanapi Nalipyate. One who walks in devotion with a pure soul who controls his mind and senses is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. So a devotee who is a bit advanced, he becomes dear to everyone. And that is interesting, that a devotee, how is he different than an ordinary person? Even a beginning devotee may be different than an ordinary person. If you meet persons in this world, then when they deal with you, they have always an agenda. What profit can I get out of this? That they want to promote themselves, or they want to enjoy a discussion. They want to get something out of it. That they have a motive. A devotee not. He just wants to give Krishna consciousness, and he has not the intention to exploit others. And one feels that in relationships. So the devotee becomes purified, and because of his pure consciousness, his senses are controlled. It does not act to exploit others, to give pleasure to his own senses and mind. That's not there. And people feel that in relationships. And by that, the devotee becomes a friend of everyone. Because there is no chance that he will engage his senses and his mind in other things than the service of the Lord. We see here on the screen, this is Sanatan Goswami, who at Govardhan in Vrindavan was worshipping the Madan Mohan deity. And Sanatan Goswami, he was loved by all the residents of Vrindavan, and they trusted him that if there was a conflict, they would go to Sanatan Goswami to mediate. That he was a friend, it said, of the gentle and the ruffians of all. So that's a devotee. He becomes the friend of everyone and is dear to everyone. So he's working, the verse says, but he's never entangled because he works for Krishna. There are no reactions to his activities. Now, verse 8 and 9, that is a very important verse that gives the symptom of one who is in divine consciousness, who sees in this world things as they are. I read the verse first. Naiva kinchit karomi tiyuktamayeta tatvavits pasanspans kisansihan asangasans vapansvasam palapam vichnamginan onmisam nimisam api indiartisu vartanta itidaya. a person in divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects, and that he is aloof from them. That is a very important verse and not easy to understand. That you see here, this young man on the screen is very surprised. Oh, I'm not doing anything at all. That nothing at all. So Krishna is explaining, we are a spirit soul. We have nothing to do with matter. As a spirit soul, we cannot move matter. It's not possible. We are spirit, nothing to do with. So what can the soul do? Only desiring. I desire to move my hand, and the hand moves. But who moves the hand? Krishna says that, yes, he said before, Prakritikriya mani guna karma sarvasa ahankara vimutatma kartamitamanyate. That is what we have learned in the 3rd chapter already. Krishna says, everything in this world is done by material nature. And one who thinks that he is the doer in this world is a vimuda, a super-S. So, in reality, what does the soul do? Only desiring. That's explained in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, verse 14. There are 5 factors of action, and Krishna says there that one who does not consider these 5 factors of action is not very intelligent. And the 5 factors are adhisthanam, the body, which is made of material nature. That's not us, right? And then the karta, the performer, that's the soul who desires. And then you have the different desires and endeavors that come up into the mind. That's the subtle body. We are also not that. So, and then you have the senses. That's also not us. That's the body. That's material nature. So the senses, the subtle body, the gross body, it's all material nature, and it's under control of the 5th factor, the super soul. Krishna confirms in the 9th chapter, Mayadakshana Prakriti, Chuchacheta Characham, I'm the controller of material nature. So the super soul is a controller in this material nature and does everything, but we only desire. And he does everything according to what we desire, and what we deserve according to our karma. We may desire to move our hand, we may desire to smile, but it's only the super soul that makes it possible. I remember that this in 2008, Jayapataka Maharaj had his stroke. I was at the meetings there in Mumbai, and we were thinking that he would not survive, but by Krishna's mercy, one month later he came out of the situation. But then when he appeared in public, he met with my Guru Maharaj, Bhakti Maharaj, and Jayapataka Maharaj said, I'm smiling. But you could not see it because he could not move all the muscles and so on, that makes the face smiling. It was not possible. That so you can desire that when it will happen, that depends on the circumstances which are created. And we are only the servant of these circumstances. It's the super soul who creates that. So we may desire, and things may happen or not. This is some decades ago, the woods in Germany, they were doing Harinam in the streets of Hamburg. But Hamburg is a harbor city. Many ships come and go. And they were doing Harinam in what they called the red zone. Means there were a lot of prostitution houses, night bars and so on. And they were doing Harinam, and suddenly a man came out of one of these night bars, and it was like a giant. And he became very angry, and he started, really a big body, and he started to run towards the devotees. And the devotees started to chant, Namaste Narasimhaya. And what happened at that moment? The man was running towards them, and at a certain moment, he was jumping in the air, and he fell flat on the floor. And then the ambulance came, and they said he had a massive heart attack. Finished. So the circumstances are created by the super soul, not by us. I remember that 30 years ago, I attended a seminar by Satchinanda Maharaj. That was in Radadej in Belgium. And he said at that time that in the evening, before you are going to sleep, you take a small paper and you write on that paper, today I will see myself as the observer. And you put that above your bed. In the morning, when you get up, you look at that paper. And if you try to do that the whole day, then you are perfectly Krishna conscious. Because that's, we desire, but what's happening is done by material nature. We can only observe. We can only, our only part in it is that we are desire. We can desire to react to certain situations that material nature gives us. But that's a person in divine consciousness. He understands this, that these things are not under my control. And he sees every moment Krishna doing things in this world. It's a super soul that does everything in this world. We only desire. We are doing by our desire. That will be further explained in this chapter. Who is then responsible? That will be clarified a little later. But when one acts in that consciousness, then Krishna says in the next verse, is like a lotus leaf untouched by water. You have a lotus leaf, and if water falls on it, it doesn't impregnate. The drop of water rolls from it. It's not affected by the water. And if one acts in the divine consciousness, always aware that Krishna is doing things in this world, then one is aloof from all reactions. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results into the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. So one is unattached, because one is only the observer, sees what's happening. Whatever happens is not under our control anyway. That's it remains completely surrendered to the results that the Supreme Lord gives. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, and I put this on the screen. Even one's material body being a gift of the Lord for carrying out a particular type of action can be engaged in Krishna consciousness. It is then beyond contamination by sinful reactions, exactly as a lotus leaf remaining in the water is not wet. So, from the moment you think yourself the doer, then you get reactions. When you know I'm not a doer, I know I'm only desiring, and my desire is to serve Krishna, no reactions. Now, a person acts with that knowledge that the body is a property of Krishna and must be engaged in his service. Therefore, his action is beyond contamination of material nature. That he knows everything comes from Krishna. In the creation, you have the pradhan in the beginning of the creation, the three modes of material nature unmanifested, and then later, by injecting the living entities, time, and so on, by the desires of the living entities, it starts to move. It's the balance of the three modes is broken. That description you find in the Bhagavatam, third canto, fourth canto, very detailed. We cannot go in detail, but it's clear also from these descriptions that we have nothing to do with matter. We are pure spiritual. In the 13th chapter, that will be explained more deeply. That Krishna says in 13:13, one who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. It's very difficult to understand that as a conditioned soul, because we are so used to think things are under my control, that I desire this, but at the same time, is everything what you desire, does it become true in this world? You'll never have any frustration? No, there's frustration also. So it's not under our control. We don't want distress. We want only the happiness part and no distress. But still, distress comes. There is nobody who has only happiness in his life and no distress. Everyone, and it's not under our control. You are born, this body is born, and together with this body, there is happiness and distress born. Your happiness and distress in your life is fixed. Cannot change it. People think you can change it. You can change it a bit, yes. I'm poor, so I'm working during the day. I will also work at night. You will get some money, yes, but you must work very hard and forget about cultivating spiritual life. So to come to that point of acting as an observer, understanding we are only desiring, and to really develop this divine consciousness, we must purify ourselves. Therefore, Krishna in the same next verse says, Kayena manasa buddhya kevala indiyarapi yogana karma kurvanti sangachatmatma sudaye. The yogi, abandoning attachment, act with body, mind, and intelligence, and even with the senses, for the purpose of purification. Sangham tyaktma sudaye. A devotee performs service for his own purification, for purification. It's a divine quality, which will be explained in the 16th chapter. First verse, the divine qualities. Abhaya sattva samsudir. Abhayam means fearless. One who does not identify with the body, but with the internal soul, is not fearful anymore. Abhaya sattva samsudir. Sattva samsudir means striving for purification of one's existence. And that's very important for devotees. That's karma yoga or real devotion or devotional service. It's acting for one's purification. And when one acts in that way, with body, mind, and words, that always in the service of Krishna, one acts as a spirit soul. And that means that one acts on the liberated platform. And that's Rupa Goswami, he confirms that in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Iya yasya hredasyem karmana manasagre nikalas apyavaste su jivan mukti sa uchate. A person acting in Krishna consciousness with body, mind, and intelligence is a liberated person within this material world, although he may be engaged in so-called material activities. So there are two things here. You can act on the platform of pure devotional service, or you can act, or you can be a pure devotee, pure in heart. You can be impure in heart, but still acting on the platform of devotional service, or the platform of liberation, by using always one's body, mind, and service in the service of the Lord. Just being surrendered to the instructions of the spiritual master, only doing what the spiritual master desires, and then you act on the pure, on the platform of pure devotion, although you are not pure, but you act on the platform of pure devotion. And you are implicitly liberated, because soon you will become liberated. One devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, how many, or I don't know exactly who asked it, but someone asked how many pure devotees are there in ISKCON. And Srila Prabhupada looked at his secretary and said, how many devotees are there now in ISKCON? So he considered all the devotees as pure devotees, because they were acting on pure devotional service. In the 70s, joining the movement, it meant joining the temple. You give all your possessions away and you go in the temple, to the temple, and the whole day on book distribution, magazine distribution, that period in the history of our movement is called the Hare Krishna explosion. Millions of books were distributed, and our movement expanded over the world like anything. Just because of that. Of course, later it changed. Then all these brahmachari and brahmacharinis married and were engaged in family life, although still engaged, but not with the same spirit of surrender as before. But we need to cultivate the spirit of surrender. And if we act on the liberated platform, what will we attain? Next verse. Krishna says that yukta karma phalantyakva santimapnoti naistikim ayukta karma karana phalasakta nibachyate. The steady, devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me, whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. So that's a devotee who serves Krishna. He has no anxiety about the results of his activities, that he does not desire profit for himself, only for Krishna. That we have seen that before in the 3rd chapter was explained. A devotee is like an employee in the bank. The employee is sitting behind the counter and someone comes and gives and puts $50,000 on his bank account, then it is not that the employee is happy to receive money. No, it's for the bank, it's not for me. Then someone comes withdrawing $100,000 from his bank account. The employee is not going to cry, oh, I have to give it. No, he gives it out of duty, it's for the bank. So a devotee is like that. He serves Krishna and uses everything in his servants, and the result, it's for Krishna that we do our best to have the results, the best results. But it's not an anxiety about it. But one who is entangled in profit calculation and sense gratification can have no peace. Have all these people who have invested in the stock market like mad, and now the coronavirus comes and suddenly all their money is gone. It's reduced to 1/10 of what was before, and they are full of anxiety that because they are attached to it, they think it's mine. I lost that. So it's no peace for them. Only the devotee can have peace. And that peace is called apnonistikim. It's very deep. Because the steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result to Krishna. So in the next verses, 4 verses, there Krishna will speak about the difference between Ishvara, Jiva, and Prakriti. So the living entity in its conditioned state identifies himself with the body, and therefore he suffers. But when one identifies himself as a spirit soul and recognizes the super soul, then one becomes as free as the super soul in this body. So that's explained in verse 13. I will read verse 13. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyasta skambhari pasi navatvare paredehi naivako nakayan. When the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material body, neither working nor causing work to be done. So in the 9 gates of the body, so what are these 9 gates? That's 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, 1 mouth, the anus, the genital. So a Krishna consciousness is free from the outer and inner activities of the material body. He becomes like the observer. He's aloof. He controls the mind by engaging in the service of Krishna. But he does not take this material world too serious. It's nothing serious. He sees all this attachment that people have. People are attached, wife to husband, husband to wife, attachment to children, attachment to possession. It's all illusory. That we have gone through so many lifetimes where we had also family, we were attached to, and we got properties, we lost properties, so many things happen in all these lives. Are we still concerned with it? It's all gone. In the same way, in this life, it will be soon gone. It's just illusory because it's temporary. And the devotee, he sees the eternal, Krishna, and I'm eternal. And serving Krishna, he serves Krishna in this world. And by that, is in the world, but is at the same time out of the world. And that's very special. And he becomes free from these activities. It doesn't matter what happens with the body. I'm different from it. That's a liberated soul. Because a conditioned soul is controlled by his attachment and aversion. And there we come at the next verse, verse 14. So that's 14. Nakartit from Nakarmani, Lokasyochi Chachi Prabhu, Nakama Falasamrugan Svavastu Pravartate. The embodied spirit, master of the city of this body, does not create activities, nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. So the conditioned soul, bewildered by his ignorance, accepts the material body, which is the cause of various activities and resulted actions. And it appears he is the master of the body, but the activities are not carried out by him. It's done by material nature. He's not a proprietor, and he's not a controller of his action and reactions. So that means, yeah, we are not in control, really. We are just tossed as the waves of the ocean are tossing a boat, like we see on the picture. And there is no control over them. Your happiness and distress is destined. And you have to go through it. Our experiences, the circumstances we get, it are this is all determined by the actions in our previous lives. The super soul gives us the reactions and we go through it. But a devotee knows these are reactions. He does not identify with it. He does not identify with this happiness and distress, which is experienced in the mind. Because he does not experience, he does not identify with the mind. He becomes an observer of the mind and he becomes aloof of it. That it's difficult to understand in our conditioned state. Not easy to understand. And realizing even more difficult. But one comes to that state if one follows Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita for performing devotional service. So this verse says, yes, the living entity is not a doer. Everything is done by material nature. he's not the doer. In the next verse, Krishna will say, I'm also not a doer. Makes it a little more confusing. We'll see next verse, it's interesting. Nadate kachitpa vamnacheva sukhitam vipu aganinavitam kanante namayanti antava. That's so. Translation: nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of their ignorance, which covers their real knowledge. So, although the Supreme Lord allows us, a spirit soul, to fulfill our material desires, he is not responsible, Krishna says, for the actions and reactions in a particular situation. He created the system. We had action and reaction in previous lives, and now you get the reaction, the perfect reaction. He has created a system, but he's not responsible for your reactions. You are responsible by your actions. You are the architect. Krishna is not. So Krishna says, in that sense, I'm also not a doer, because the living entity has a minute identity, freedom, independence. And what is this independence that we have? We can desire what we want. That's our freedom. We desire what we want, and Krishna does not interfere with our desire. Therefore, spiritual life means desiring to please Krishna, spiritual desire. And that's the cause of our liberation, if we cultivate a desire to attain Krishna. He explains in the 12th chapter also. He says, if you cannot always think of me, follow the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga. Have a sadhana, chant Hare Krishna, hear about me, glorify me, and so on. And then you will develop a desire to attain me. Desire, that's what the soul does. That's our activity. And becoming Krishna conscious means changing our desire. Instead of the desire to give pleasure to this body, which we are not, this body and this mind, we are not, these are material instruments, that we should desire to please Krishna. So, if one desires Krishna, then Krishna will take special care of us. And encourage one to desire in such a way that one can attain him and become more happy. That in the purport of this verse 15, Srila Prabhupada writes, desire is a subtle form of conditioning. That's why we are conditioned in this soul, in this world, because of our desire to enjoy a body and a mind and become the big enjoyers in this world. So by identifying with this body, so that conditions us. So the Lord fulfills the desires of the conditioned soul as one deserves according to one's karma. Man proposes, God disposes. The Lord does not interfere with the desire of the minute living entity. That there is a difference between the Lord and us. The Lord is Vibhu, we are Anu. Vibhu means the Supreme Lord, full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, renunciation. And the Lord is Vibhu, or omniscient, but we are atomic. And the Lord is aware of our desires. Because he knows what we desire before we know it. How is that possible? Because the soul desires, but because we are covered by a body and a mind, we have lost the capacity to recognize our own, to perceive our own desires, because they are spiritual. And we desire, but that desire, how do we perceive it? It comes into the mind. The supersoul puts it in the mind. So the supersoul knows it before us, this desire. So that is very important, that to understand that he recognizes our desire as one can smell the flavor of a flower. That's next. Yeah. The Lord is a constant companion of the living entity as Paramatma, or the Supersoul, and therefore he can understand the desires of the individual soul, as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being nearby it. So Krishna knows our desires. It is not necessary for a devotee to pray to the Lord to fulfill our desires. He knows our desires already. That if one has realized all this knowledge, then by this knowledge one sees things as they are in this world. And such a self-realized person who sees things as they are in this world is very rare. But Krishna speaks about that in the next chapter. That's it. 16. Janena tu tadachyanam yesham nastamatmana atitya patchanam prakasyata tatparam. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then this knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So this is, if one has perfect knowledge of one's relationship with Krishna, then that knowledge drives away all ignorance, as the sun drives away darkness. Srila Prabhupada in the Prabhupada writes, one can know God and one's relationship with God only when one actually meets a representative of God. One has to learn the distinction between God and the living entity. At night we see everything as one in the darkness, but in the daytime, when the sun is up, we see everything in its real identity. Identity with individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge. So the transcendental knowledge destroys ignorance. That Baladev Vidyabhushan said, those who associate with saintly persons have their ignorance, which is opposed to knowledge, destroyed by the knowledge of Atma and Paramatma. Then one sees what the Atma does and what the Paramatma does. Atma desires, the Paramatma controls everything, controls material nature, and he organizes the whole drama in this world according to what we desire and what we deserve. But desire is a subtle form of conditioning. We can become liberated by that if we change our desires. That from enjoying matter to spirit, from enjoying matter to pleasing Krishna. So that liberates us, that knowledge. And that's the next verse. Thus the Lord does not bind anyone, nor does he liberate anyone. But vidya and avidya, which are the qualities of Prakriti, liberate and bind the spirit soul. That, of course, these pictures, you have a man bound and the other liberated. That's not the meaning, but it's just to give an idea. Liberation means liberation from the darkness that one identifies with the body. Liberation means identifying with our real self and desire spiritually. So now in the next session, in the verses until the end, we will hear from the symptoms and realization of self-realized souls, introduction to Dhyana Yoga at the end, the yogic process, which we will discuss next time, and the peace formula. So we will now have a break that of, it's now, let's see what the time, it's 10:09. We can start again at 10:30 in 20 minutes, and we will go to the next presentation, the last part, and then we will have half an hour for questions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, we will start with the second part of the 5th chapter, text 17. Tat buddhyas, tat atmanas, tat nishta, tat parayana, kachanta punaravitam jnana kalmasa. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuse are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings to complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. So, when one engages in devotional service, then using one's body, mind, intelligence, which is all material energy, we use it in the service of Krishna for his pleasure, then our heart becomes purified, that all misgivings are taken away. The idea that we are this body start to shrink and finally vanishes. That a devotee, even from the first days that he starts to chant Hare Krishna, by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, that one feels inside, I'm different from this body. But the realization is yet to come. That's a cleansing process, a washing of all the ignorance which is seated in our intelligence, in our mind. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, those whose intellect, mind, and faith are fixed on me, Paramatma, were absorbing, glorifying, and serving me, being washed of all ignorance by knowledge, take never birth again. Then real knowledge develops. Who am I? I'm a part and parcel of Krishna. Who is Krishna? What is our relationship? How can I engage in that relationship? That feel spiritual bliss. So that all that knowledge comes when we are washed of all ignorance. And what is the realization of such a person who is completely clean in heart? How does what are his symptoms? That is now described in the next verses until verse 26. All characteristics of self-realized souls. And how do they act as self-realized souls? That by understanding their mentality and how they act, we can derive from each verse that now follows spiritual techniques, how we should see the world, how we should behave towards opportunities for sense gratification and material enjoyment, how we should endeavor to feel happiness within, and not trying to seek happiness within this world. That's all described now in much more details than in the 3rd chapter. This is really the knowledge behind karma yoga or devotional service. And from every verse we can learn something. Now, the vision of such a self-realized person, that this is a key verse of the Gita, that Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmana Gavi Hastini Sunshev Swapake Pande Sunashiva Swapake Chapanita Samadakshana. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahma, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. They see with equal vision. That so we see an elephant on the screen, a Brahman, a cow, a dog, a horse, and so on. That one with equal vision sees, oh, you have different bodies, but it's the same spirit soul. They got these bodies according to their previous activities in previous lives. Therefore, they get the reactions here. They are suffering, I'm also suffering. So in that sense, we are equal. That equal in our suffering, in our happiness. Happiness by identifying with the body. So one sees the living entity, the real person. Like in 35 years ago, I was the head of administration in a geriatric department of a hospital. And in that department, there were many old people. I remember there were 118 patients. 118 patients. To endure difficult circumstances. 180 patients on the department. And every week, 2 of them would die. And one time I was there when the grandfather was leaving his body. And at the time of death, you look into his eyes and the last breath comes and his eyes break. It's like the light is going out of the eyes because the soul is gone. You can see the soul through the eyes in that sense, the brightness, the light, but it was gone. And the daughter was there and she was crying, he has gone, he has gone, he has gone. But what is gone? The body is still there. Does she recognize that her father was not a body? It's a basis of every religion. They speak about an afterlife. What's going to the afterlife? The same body? No, it's a spirit soul. That's what we are. And that's the vision of reality. And that's what Pandita Samadakshana. Someone sees that in every living entity there's a soul in every grass halm, every tree, everything that lives, that grows. It's spirit that makes it growing. And one sees that super soul in the heart of everyone. And the super soul is equal to everyone. It gives just the reactions of their past activities. That's described in the purport by Srila Prabhupada. he compares Paramatma with equal like rainfall. So rain falls on the mountains, in the water, everywhere. So he gives form. It's not that he likes one person or dislikes one person. No, he gives the rainfall. So such a person, that's explained in the next verse, has attained real equanimity in mind. That's 19. Ihaivater yeta shargo yesan sangastitamana nirdasami samam brahma tasmat brahmati te stita. Those whose mind are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are always situated in Brahman. So such a person who has this vision that he does not take birth again, because he does not identify with the body anymore. As long as one identifies with the body, he's a conditioned soul. But as soon as he's elevated to the level of equanimity, to a realization of the self, is liberated. You see on the screen that a baby is just born, and down you have Columbus who is dying. We see the spirit soul, the living entity, embodied living entity. If one sees that, one becomes really intelligent. And that's explained in the next verse. Who is really intelligence? Stira buddhi, self-intelligence. Napasrichet priyam prapya, novichet prapya sarvadam, sterabhujama samudo bhanavid bhamani sita. One with intelligence, naprasrichet priyam prapya. If something pleasant happens, some opportunity for sense gratification, is not interested. It's for the body. And novichet prapya sapriyam. If something unpleasant happens, some distress, it's not too disturbed. So the self-realized soul does not rejoice or lament on attaining favorable or unfavorable conditions attained by prabdha karmas. Why? Is intelligence is fixed in its atma. One sees, I'm eternal, and I'm only interested in eternal things. Krishna is eternal, I'm eternal, and and my service is eternal, never stops. Death cannot take it away. It continues. It's eternal. So why should I engage myself in enjoying a body and give it pleasure, or get the miseries from the body? I'm not a body. I'm not a mind. I do not identify with it. I'm an Atma. And then one is Stira Buddhi, not interested in sense gratification or not disturbed by so-called distress of the body. So this bewilderment, this experience of happiness and distress comes from identifying with the body. And that gives rise to joy and lamentation and other emotions in the mind. And liberated soul does not identify with this mind. And then so is not interested in external things in this world. Is interested to feel happiness within the love of Krishna consciousness, of serving Krishna, the pleasure of serving Krishna. It goes within, and that's explained in the next verse. So this is this was a stira buddhi, so no interested in happiness and distress. You see, children, they identify completely with the mind. Completely, they cannot control it. It comes, that ability comes later. That so they see something pleasurable and they start to smile, or they get some distress and immediately tears comes. There's no buddhi between that controls it, that develops later. But adults many times are like that also, because they are too absorbed in the mind. Karmatmakam is called in the Bhagavatam. They see everything to I am the body, and that's my happiness, the happiness of the body. And if I don't get this, I'm lamenting. But then a devotee seeks the pleasure within. Payaspasis saktatma pindatyatme yatsukam sabrama yoga yuktatma sukhamaksham asante. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse of Yamunacharya, which he quotes many times in lectures. That's Yamunacharya says, since I've been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever a new pleasure in him. Whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought and my lips curl with distaste. So no interest in worldly pleasures. That one on that platform does not want to hear in it, but does not wanting to engage in it. That is just absorbed in his service, constant devotional service, and he loses completely his taste for material sense pleasure. Because if the taste for material sense pleasure is high, your spiritual realization is low. If your taste for serving Krishna is high, your taste for the material world is low. So that's important. These two don't go ill together. That we cannot have this material pleasure and spiritual pleasure. No, that's called sahaja. That's not possible. So a person in Brahma Yoga or Krishna consciousness, that's the word used here in this verse, Brahma Yoga, is absorbed in the loving service of the Lord that he loses taste for material sense pleasure. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. So he's so absorbed in loving service, like Lord Shiva is always meditating on the Lord within his heart. He's so absorbed, he loses his external consciousness. We see many times the advanced devotees, when they come to the Uttam Adhikar platform, they may sometimes lose external consciousness. That like Lord Chaitanya would sometimes lose external consciousness. When he came before Lord Jagannath, he fainted and lost external consciousness. So absorbed within, that always fixed on Krishna. Now, next verse, that's a very important point for us to understand. Verse 22. Yei sanspasyabuga dukayunha evate atyanta vante kantiya nate shuramate buddha. That this verse says, an intelligent man does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses, O son of Kunti. Such pleasure have a beginning and an end, so the wise man does not delight in them. So Krishna says, a wise man does not want to engage in sense pleasure, because if one wants to enjoy sense pleasure in this world, you have to pay for it. The reaction is suffering in the next life. Enjoyment in this world, with the idea that I'm the body, and things are for my sense gratification, you try to enjoy, the result is suffering. Enjoyment is suffering. And the wise man says, Krishna says, they don't want to engage in it because it's temporary. It's very flickering, and the result, you get the opposite. You enjoy, then you have to suffer. So better to let it go. The devotee does not do that. He does not act for his personal enjoyment. It comes like an addiction. Like one wants to drink, is a drunkard. That, yes, one is addicted to the pleasure. One drinks the whole Saturday night and the next day a hangover. One is sick. But the drunkard thinks, yes, I'm sick, but yesterday evening I had a good time. And when he comes better, he wants to do it again. And in the long term, is some parabdha karma comes. His liver will be spoiled and he will die from it. It's great suffering. So sense addiction, wanting sense enjoyment again and again is like an addiction. That it's very dangerous. So enjoyment is suffering. The devotee knows that. It is said that even a beginner, if he hears this Bhagavad Gita and understands a bit the meaning, what is said here, he can never enjoy again like an ordinary materialist. Finished. With that knowledge. Because how can one otherwise explain why there is suffering in this world? Some philosopher says, if God allows suffering in this world, he must be a monster. But we must not blame God. We are the architect of our suffering by our previous actions. You get just reaction. If you want to enjoy, you are exploiting the material world. And at the cost of suffering of others. Therefore, you have to pay for it. And that's supreme justice. But this enjoyment, a devotee gives up. And Srila Prabhupada quotes in the purport the Srimad Bhagavatam verse, which he quotes many times. Nayam deo dea bacham niloke kastam kamana tevit pucham ye tapod vamputkayin satyam sitye yasma brahma sakyam panantam. my dear boys, of all living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and horses that eat stool. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. At such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. So the spirit soul is meant for enjoyment, but eternal enjoyment, not temporary enjoyment by trying to exploit the material world. That's a lower enjoyment. One must give up the lower enjoyment to get a higher. And what is the austerity? The performance of devotional service. Follow the four relative principles and chant Hare Krishna, hear about Krishna, perform devotional service. And that's our tapasya. Only eating prasad, not so difficult, that so we become purified. So in the next verse, 23, is another point related to liberated persons. Saknotita vyasitam prakshira vimoksanat kam kodvam bhavam vegam sayukta sa sukhi naraha. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, is happy and is well situated and happy in this world. So it are the material desires in this world that makes us unhappy, trying to fulfill material desires. They never are fulfilled fully, and it causes frustration, anger, and so on. Vishwanath Thakur says, one evil can tolerate in this world agitation arising from lust, anger, before being liberated from the body, is a yogi and is happy. So we are suffering because we are controlled by this lust. We become a servant of the material desires we have, a servant of the body and the senses, which we are not. It's insanity. So that's also confirmed in Nectar of Instruction, Vacho Vegam, Anasakoda Vegam, Shiva Vegam, Uttarabhasta Vegam, Etam Vegam, Sufficeta Dira, Savam Pratamam Pritamin Nasisya. So one who can tolerate the urge to speak the demands of the mind and anger, who can tolerate the urges of the tongue, the stomach and the genitals, he's ready to make disciples all over the world. It's not easy to attain that platform. There's a platform of a guru. We attain that by using body, mind, words, everything we have, our convictions, everything in the service of the Lord. That by that we become purified, and always engage in the Lord means everything is under control. If we become servants of the mind and we engage everything in satisfying our lusty desires, then we get reactions, we suffer, we become unhappy, never fulfilled our material desires, so many problems, entanglement. That's the difference. In verse 24, Krishna speaks about the perfect mystic. Yonta Sukatarangan Ramsta Tantra Choti Visasi Yogabaman Yusam Nirvanam Brahmabhuti Dikachate. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is within, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately, he attains the Supreme. That the purport Srila Prabhupada writes, unless one is able to relish happiness from within, how can one retire from the external engagements meant for deriving superficial happiness? Liberated person enjoys by factual experience. So, param drishta nivartate. Srila Prabhupada said, one must get the higher taste. The higher taste. If one serves Krishna out of love, Krishna gives ecstatic feelings in the heart of such a devotee, according to the intensity of his love. And when one feels that one is so satisfied, that one is not satisfied with anything in this world, one feels that pleasure within. And that starts with this karma yoga, selfish service, but the goal must be the Supreme Lord. That the selfless service to please the Supreme Lord connects us with the spiritual energy, which is a source of our realizing again that we are Satchit Ananda, that full of knowledge, bliss, and eternal. So, therefore, such a person feels so much happiness within, he wants to give it to others, and that brings it to the next verse. Labanda Brahma Nirvanam Rishakshina Kalamasa Shinadvetyatat Mata Sarvabhutaiterata. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. So it is said here, iterata, sarva bhuta iterata, engaging for the welfare of all living beings. Now, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, the suffering of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the Supreme Proprietor and the Supreme Friend. Therefore, to act to revise this consciousness with the entire human society is the highest welfare work. So that's the preacher. He's not concerned with himself. He's not concerned like Prahlad Maharaj with his own liberation. He's not like those yogis in the Himalayas who are only concerned with their own self-realization. No, he wants to give it to others because he feels already this bliss. The yogis in the Himalayas have still to attain it by their practice, but he's already attained it. That's this verse. Now, in this verse says, "Oh, Prahlad Maharaj prays to Lord Nrsimhadev, because I'm always engaged in your service. I feel always transcendently blissful, but I'm very concerned with those conditioned souls who are after Maya Sukha, illusory happiness, trying to get happiness from dead bodies. That I'm very concerned with their welfare. I want to help it. He has a sincere desire to help it, and that arises natural when one experiences happiness within. And such a person who acts as such for the welfare of all is assured of getting liberation. 26. Kama koda vibhuktanam yatinam yata shetanam abhita bhavanirvanam vartate viditatmanam. Those who are free from anger and material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. That So, because such a person, Srila Prabhupada writes in the pulpit, can elevate himself to Krishna's abode, that by always thinking of Krishna, just by thinking of Krishna always. In the purpose, Srila Prabhupada writes, in the conditioned soul, the desire to enjoy the fruitive results of work is so deep-rooted that it is difficult even for the great sages to control such a desire, despite great endeavors. A devotee of the Lord constantly engaged in devotion and service in Krishna consciousness, perfect in self-realization, very quickly attains liberation in the Supreme. So that Prabhupada writes, this desire in the conditioned soul to enjoy the results of one work is so deep-rooted, and the whole world is going towards that. One studied at the university to get a diploma, to get a higher job, to become respected and to get more money, a good job and a good life, instant gratification, that they give masters in business administration, a master in becoming expert in exploiting others through many systematic ways. And people think, yeah, that's the highest. If I have that, then I will be happy. So that's so deep-rooted. All our educational system is geared to that end, to enjoy better in this life, that to become a better controller and to enjoy better. But spiritual education is absent. That it's all the desire to enjoy the fruits of one's work in this world. In this purport, Srila Prabhupada gives the example of the tortoise. The Paramatma indeed serves such persons. Paramatma in all respect attends upon those persons who endeavor in this way. So it means that Krishna is in our heart. If he sees that we always think of him, then he gives us realizations from within the heart, that he nourishes us like the fish nourishes its offspring by seeing it, the turtle by meditation, and by birds, the birds by touch. I nourish my devotees with similar affection, O Brahma. This is from the Padma Purana. So Krishna, he takes care of us if he sees that we want to understand Bhagavad Gita, that we want to apply it, and that we try to apply it, and then when we apply it, that we want to improve it, then he helps. If we apply it and we don't have a strong desire to improve it, Krishna will not help. We must have that strong desire of taking shelter. And Krishna, he, within our heart, he reciprocates with our desire. But then, at the end of this chapter, the Lord Krishna is giving a summary of the practice of a yogi, Astanga yogi, which is the subject of the next chapter. It's like a prelude and a foreword, that a summary. So, Spasankit Fabayabam, Saxusai Vantrebi, Panapana, Samokritan, Nasabian, Charina, Yatendana, Manamudir, Munia Moksapayana, Pigatachabaya Yasa, Mukta Saivasa, shutting out all external objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendentalist aiming at liberation comes free from the desire, fear, and anger, who is always in this state is solely liberated. So this Ashtanga yoga process is a mechanistic process which we will discuss next week, next Sunday, in detail. It's Asta means 8. It's a yoga ladder of 8 stages. And it helps one, the subtle body, to come free from more contamination and fear, anger is going, and one becomes peaceful and finally, if one is successful, one attains a super soul within. That's the purpose of the Ashtanga Yoga. So there are 8 stages we will discuss. Yama, Niyama, Asham, Pranayam, Pratyahara, Dharam, Dhyan, Samadhi. Yam is following regulations. Like we follow also regulations. We chant Hare Krishna. But, well, regulations means negative. Things not to do. Yam means things not to do. And follow the 4 regulative principles. No illicit sex, no meat, no gambling, no intoxication. The yogis follow the same principles. They follow much more rules than these. Follow the regulations. And niyam, things to do. A lot of rules they must do. Then ashan, sit properly, so that one can do pranayam, breathing exercises. And these breathing exercises are purifying the subtle body, which is working with different life airs. And then after these breathing exercises, they come to pratyahara. They give up all sensual contact with the outside world, and then they go inwards, dharam. And then they come to meditation and then trance. That's a process that can take many lifetimes, and it's very difficult in this age. Arjuna said, Arjuna will say in the next chapter, I cannot do it. In the Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada writes that Arjuna was 1,000 times more qualified than all of us. So what we was, can we do it? No. But Krishna will say there is a suitable practice for this age. You can do it, Arjuna, with detachment and suitable practice. Suitable practice, Lord Chaitanya came to bring us by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada makes the point in the purport, but what is better than Ashtanga Yoga is Krishna consciousness. A Krishna conscious person, however, being always engaged in the devotional service, does not risk losing his senses to some other engagement. This is a better way of controlling the senses than Ashtanga Yoga. We control our senses by engaging the senses in Krishna's service. They must control their senses by this process of Ashtanga Yoga, which is very difficult. You can only start practicing this yoga process when you are already practically purified in heart. First, you must perform karma yoga before starting this process. And most yoga schools, the real yoga schools, you have to be celibate to practice it. No married people, not possible. You must join the ashram. And but in Bhakti Yoga, that is not there, because Bhakti Yoga is a much more powerful process. That is the complete yoga. But Krishna summarized at the end of this chapter that the purpose of the yogi, not the yogi, but the karma yogi was, with symptoms have been described all over at the end of this chapter. What does he realize at the end? That he realizes, this is the peace, called the peace formula. Bhaktaram Jagatam Sarvalokamaswaram Suradam Sarvabhutanam Yatramam Santim Richati. He realizes that Bhaktaram Jagatapasam, Krishna is enjoyer of all sacrifices, because everything belongs to him. He should enjoy, be the enjoyer of everything, because he's the proprietor, Sarvalokamashvaram. And Suridam Sarvabhutanam, is the best friend of all living entities. Yatvaman Santim Richati. Then one can always remain peaceful. The Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada writes, Lord Krishna is the beneficiary of all human activities. Man should offer everything to the transcendental service of the Lord, because he is the proprietor of all planets and demigods thereon. The Lord is the master of material nature, and the conditioned soul are under the stringent rules of material nature. Unless one understands these bare facts, it is not possible to achieve peace in the world, either individually or collectively. So this is a basic understanding of the basis of the knowledge behind every Krishna conscious action. Krishna, everything is energy of Krishna. He is the proprietor, and therefore he is the enjoyer. We are not the enjoyer. By giving enjoyment to Krishna, we enjoy spiritually a bliss which is far beyond any material happiness, in temporary happiness in this world. A bliss which is eternal. When you make advancement in Krishna consciousness, you feel this bliss, and that you have that for eternity. Srila Prabhupada was always feeling this, that although he may so-called have been disturbed by this and that, but he acted many times to teach us, but internally he was always in Vrindavan. That Srila Prabhupada created Vrindavan everywhere, just by his consciousness. Devotees who were near to him felt very peaceful and blissful. Even when he was chastising them, they would feel bliss. That's the influence of a pure devotee. So this is the end of the 5th chapter. At the end, these two verses you have to memorize. Dat Jesus Pasyabuka, Dukyana Robert Evate, Adjant van de Kantia, Nati Shuramati Buddha. That's the verse that says that you want to enjoy in this world, you will get suffering. And that's also, and the last verse, it's Srila Prabhupada quoted so many times in his preaching, Bhaktam Jagatam Sarvalokamasharam Suradam Sarvutam Yatramam Satni Vichati. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifice and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries. So that's why materialistic persons will never be peaceful unless they recognize these points and act according to this knowledge. Now we will have a look at your questions. Nago Piradika Devidasi. In Bhagavad Gita, verse 5.9, 5.13, there only a devotee or an announcer understand is neither working nor causing work to be done. So why only a devotee or an announcer realize that? It is because his only desire to serve the Lord. The point here is that first they have transcendental knowledge, and one can come to this realization. Factually, one comes to this realization when one gives up the identification with the body. And what prevents us to give up this identification with the body? That it's anarthas, impurities in the heart. Impurities in the heart, which are there because we had before the conception or the misconception that I'm the enjoyer in this world and everything belongs to me. That if one gets rid of this misunderstanding by purifying the heart of lust, anger, greed, and so on, then one comes to the realization that one is not a doer in this world. One understands everything is done by the super soul, and one realizes that. So the devotee realizes that because he is in the process, that's a stage in the process called Nishta or Brahma Buddha platform, and then he goes further to develop love of Krishna. The announcer, his path is very troublesome, but he can also become purified. It takes usually a few lifetimes. And then it comes also to that realization. But he attains liberation, he will not develop love of Godhead. To develop love of Godhead, you must do devotional service. But he becomes also liberated and understands that everything is controlled by the super soul. That therefore the announcer and the devotee have this realization, but the realization of the announcer is not complete. That because it does not understand that the cause of the super soul or the cause of Brahman is Krishna. And therefore it gets stuck, it doesn't go further. Next question, also, a devotee doesn't suffer the results of his work as he works for the Lord, whereas a non-devotee suffers the results of his work that come from his desires. So the work done by a non-devotee are not real work. That's like I explained, we are the doer in this world by our desire. That's our doing. That's how we do work, with our desire. The rest is not done by us. So the devotee desires to please Krishna and engage in devotional service. This is real, eternal work. This is the eternal activity of the spirit soul. That's on the spiritual platform. But the conditioned soul who desires to enjoy this world, he also only desires, but he serves, he becomes a servant of the illusory energy, Maya, which is also Krishna's energy. So both are serving Krishna, but the conditioned soul is serving Krishna through Maya and does not understand who he is and takes birth again and again and again. And the liberated soul, he serves the Supreme Lord, which is real work because it's eternal. But the other is temporary work. In that sense, we can say it's not real work, that is spiritual. It does temporary work, but it's also serving Krishna. It's serving the material energy of Krishna. that, but he does not know that he's in illusion. He does not know that he's serving Krishna's energy in that way. So let's see, there are two more messages. I think. Okay. From Hari Charan. We get so many things into the mind only when we identify with the thing that is called desire. And if one acts on that, is one bound by that, if that act is not in Krishna consciousness, is that correct understanding? That it's true, desires come up into our mind, that these desires can have different sources. A desire can come from the soul, but the desire can also pop up in the mind and have another, and it comes from another origin. We have got so many desires in our previous lives, that material desires. What is the characteristic of a material desire? You can never fulfill it. You are frustrated always. It's never fulfilled. So Krishna knows that the super soul. When the body dies, that remains in our subconsciousness as samskaras. But Krishna knows what we have desired before. So I bring that desire again in our mind. It pops up. And we think, where does this desire come from? But there are two ways to deal with that desire. If one is a non-devotee, one identifies with the mind and one thinks, oh, that's my desire, that's good. Let's go for it. And he tries again. But the devotee sees that desire popping up into his mind and thinks, oh, that's dangerous. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, it's not worthwhile, it's a material desire. If I want to fulfill it, I will suffer. So let it go, I don't want it. And it disappears. So desires come from different sources. But the point is, if a desire comes up into the mind, how do we react to it? Do we identify ourselves with that desire? Then we are lost. We should let it go if it are material desires. So we get so many things in the mind only when we identify with that thing that is called desire. So that I explained. If one acts on that, one is bound by that if that act is not in Krishna consciousness. That's also correct. Yes, that's the right understanding. If it relates to the popping up of material desires in one's mind. And desires can come from previous life, but material desires can also come from the environment. If you are in association with sense enjoyments, then these lusty desires that you have can come in your mind. You eat food which is not offered to Krishna, but prepared by lusty people, and comes up in your mind. Can have so many sources. Of course, we can desire ourselves as a spirit soul to engage in this act of sense gratification, but usually a devotee has not this desire. Next message.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. So it is said that the devotee or announcer realizes that it's neither causing work nor causing work to be done. So what is meant by work here? That work means desire. We desire only. We desire, but it's neither working nor causing work to be done. So it's not the cause of the work for material nature. It may desire it, but the work is done by the body. And the body is the super soul who does it. So it's not that the soul is doing, it only desires. So it's neither causing or work. So what is meant by work here? Work is what activities, what the super soul does with the body. All the activities in this world, whatever happens, that we think we are working, but it's a super soul who does it. I think I move my hand, but I only desire, and Krishna is moving my hand as a super soul. Why devotees who desire to work to Krishna engage in devotional service sees that? Because they have knowledge, that knowledge which is explained here. What kind of work is devotional service? 3 conditions. You must know who you are and act in that capacity as a servant of Krishna, know who Krishna is, and then engage in devotional service, doing the activities for the pleasure of Krishna with the understanding that everything belongs to Krishna. So it's not really the same question as before, but it's you ask a little. You ask it a little different, so that I could clarify it further. Now, the next verse from Radha Bhakti, David Asi. Why does Krishna speak of Karma Yoga in chapter 3 and then again in chapter 5? What are the main differences between the 2 chapters, and why does he speak them in order with transcendental knowledge in between? So that's in chapter 3, Krishna has explained the general principle of Jahya. But at the end, he said to perform this Jahya, that the performance of this Jahya, one must conquer lust. And to conquer this lust, one needs transcendental knowledge. So to properly perform Karma Yoga, one must have transcendental knowledge to act as a spirit soul. In the 4th chapter, he gives us transcendental knowledge. Then in the 5th chapter, he revisits what he said in the 3rd chapter, how to apply this transcendental knowledge in the performance of Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, it gives much more details there based on the transcendental knowledge that was explained in the 4th chapter. And he explains the practical application of this transcendental knowledge explained in the 4th chapter. So that's the main difference. Now, Damodar Gopal. Is it possible to renounce 100% for matter? How? Can you please explain it in briefly? So, like I said, you can engage in pure devotional service by doing all your activities just for the pleasure of Krishna with body, mind, and words and senses, and that is acting on the spiritual platform, and that will purify you. That purification process takes a while. A devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, if I'm only 90% pure, will Krishna accept me? And Srila Prabhupada said, yes. And then the devotee said, and 85% Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada said, yes, but it would not go lower than 80%. You must be purified to a great extent. And what happens then? We can learn from the Bhagavatam many examples that then you have the Munichari gopis in the pastime of Lord Ram. Lord Ram was wandering through the Dandakaranya forest, and he came across the Munichari sages. And the sages said, we want to have a relationship with you in conjugal love. So they were practically liberated, practically pure. Otherwise, they would not ask that. And then Lord Ram said, in my incarnation, Eka Patni, I have only one wife, Sita. But in 2 million years ago, further, I will appear as Lord in the Dvapara Yuga as Lord Krishna. And then you can have that relationship with me. So all these Munichari sages, they took birth in the wombs of gopis in Vrindavan. And they associated with the Nitya Siddhi gopis, eternal residents of the spiritual world who were descended with Krishna. And they were trained by them. And by that, they went from their 90 or 95% to 100. But that birth they took is already a spiritual birth. And when Krishna blew on his flute, all these Munichari gopis, who were sages before, they wanted to leave and run to Krishna, but they were all stopped by their relatives. But by their deep desire to be with Krishna, they all left their material bodies and received spiritual bodies in which they then could participate with Krishna in the rasa dance. So Krishna makes arrangements. You have to be 100% pure to go to the spiritual world, but if you are nearly pure, Krishna let you first take birth in a universe where he has his pastimes. And you take part in these pastimes and associate with the Nitya Siddha devotees, and you become 100% pure. But that is already a spiritual birth. And after that, you can go back to Goloka Vrindavan. So that's what I heard from authorities, what's also in the Bhagavatam. Krishna takes care of us, but we have to attain a higher form of purity, 80–90% pure. I hope that answers your question. Any other questions? Hare
Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Dhanavad pranams. Maharaj, like in the second verse, when Krishna is saying that someone who's acting in Karma Yoga is renounced, but a karmi is also acting, right? So my question is, like, if someone is acting in devotional service, then does the detachment come because of Krishna in the heart?
No, the detachment comes by purification through knowledge. In the 4th chapter That's already been explained. Vitraya manmaya mama pashita, bhavagyana tapasa, putamad agata. Many great sages in the past became free from attachment, fear, and anger. And they became purified by knowledge of me. That is how the purification comes. But that knowledge is realized knowledge, that which Krishna gives to the heart. 10th chapter. Tesam satayuktam bhajtam pitapabhakam dadami buddhyo tam yena mamo payantati. Krishna says, if you serve me with a little love, pleasing the spiritual master, then dadami, I give you buddhi yoga, this self-realized knowledge. That's realization, vijnana, realized knowledge. And that causes that detachment naturally. One realizes I'm a spirit soul, I come out of the forest of delusion, the madness of this world. I become the observer, that I don't want to become entangled in everything. I'm only a servant of Krishna. I use everything in his servant, and one becomes completely detached. It comes to realization, knowledge within, that but a devotee who starts the process of devotional service may not be renounced as such, but is acting in a renounced way, because he's acting to please Krishna with the right understanding. And that will start the process of purification soon. And then the detachment of this world will become awakened in the heart by attachment to Krishna. But it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process of many years. But the wonder is that if you are engaged just to please Krishna, it gives already satisfaction to the heart. Not yet the high bliss, not a high detachment, but satisfaction. And surely you wake up from this bad dream of being the body. Does that help to clarify, or did I understand it right, your question?
Yeah, I always wondered, like, if it is like Krishna from within the heart, when we chant his holy names, that he is cutting the attachments.
That is reciprocating with our desire. If we desire really to be free from this misery of this world, and we take always refuge in everything what we do, yes, Krishna will do, but it depends on your desire. So we have to intensify our desire. That if we think everything is all right in this world, I'm okay. That it will not happen. We are all in an awkward situation, like explained in the previous chapter. Every moment, things may be finished. And that's a reality. And therefore, we should take every moment shelter of Krishna. And according to our surrender tree, he reciprocates, but that's required. If we feel everything is all right, then it will go very slow. There's no progress in devotional service. Yeah. Does that help?
Yes. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. So, something else?
I had one more question too.
Yeah.
Like in verse 15, when it is said like Krishna is the one who is granting all the results, but we see typically that people do get the results of what they do. Someone works hard, they get good results. Someone wants to succeed, they succeed. So how do you explain this to someone in the material world, that there is a clear pattern between working hard and achieving success, and people follow that pattern, that path? But how do we break that conception that is not entirely, I mean, I understand that it's not entirely true, but how do you explain it?
Yeah, that you can explain them that they desire so many things in this world. They desire only happiness. But they get also unhappiness, distress. And do they desire that? To what extent do they control that? Yes, if one has a pious previous life, then one gets easily benefits in this life. Srila Prabhupada used to say the people of America are pious because that's the result of their previous lives. But unfortunately, most of them know what they are doing. Their next life, in this life, they are not so pious. But yes, we get results according to our past activities. I explain this with the words of Prabhupada that I think is in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The pastime, this Murari, Mihrari, the hunter, so he used to kill animals, kill them half with his bow and his arrows, and he killed them half and they were suffering like anything. And now the Muni came to that forest and he saw this animals suffering, and he goes to Mrigari the hunter and says that, do you know, are you killing these animals half? And he said, yes, I learned it from my father, and we enjoy it very much when they move like this, when they, that. And now the Muni said this hunter had a big beard and a lot of hair and a big body. And now the Muni told him, do me one favor, kill them completely, don't let them suffer like that. But then he told the hunter, you will suffer a lot in next life because of that. And he gave him a vision to see that. And then he asked, now Michael the hunter asked Narada Muni, what can I do? What should I do to prevent that? And Narada Muni said, first you have to break your bow, and then I will tell you what to do. But Michael the hunter said, that's my livelihood. That's where I'm living from. How can I break my bow? That if I don't do that work, I cannot live. So he was thinking that I get the results of my work because of my work. Because of my work, I maintain myself. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, this is not so. Living entities are not maintained by their work. They are maintained by Krishna, because he's the doer of everything in this world. So thinking that I'm working hard and I give the results, it's not like that. That you get your results because of your activities in your past life, that's all. Not by your, it's a reaction. That's all. That your happiness and distress is destined in this world. And then Narada Muni says to Michael, it says to Michael the hunter, don't worry that your maintenance of your family will be cared for. But then he broke his bow, and Narada Muni said, you go to your home, you plant a Tulsi tree, and before the Tulsi tree, you chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And he started to do that. And a new spread in all the villages around. A sinful hunter has become a sadhu. And then all these people, they started a pilgrimage to visit the saintly hunter. And when you visit someone, you bring something. They brought so many vegetables and food as a present. And then when Narada Muni with Parvata Muni later visited his disciple, this hunter, where become purified, that the hunter said to Narada Muni, please don't bring me so much food, I get 10 times more than I need. So we should never think it's by my mercy, by my work that I'm maintained. It is not like that. That is an illusion. That, it's a bitter pill to swallow for those in the conditioned state of mind. That I'm not a doer. It's not by me that all this is happening. That many have worked a lot for the results of their work. Coronavirus pandemic comes up and everything is gone. What's their control? Nothing. That's Krishna consciousness. Krishna controls, and I depend on Krishna. And then Krishna will do wonderful things to you if you become his instrument. And that's called surrender. Does that help, Balakrishna?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah, I think there is another one. Super soul does all the work without considering whether it is sinful or not. It just fulfills our desires. Is equal like the rain, that it gives us the reactions. But you write is very true. Srila Prabhupada writes in a purport. He writes in a purport that the conditioned soul, the soul wants to do sinful activities, and the super soul will facilitate it and help him to go to hell. If we desire to go back to Krishna, Krishna will help us to go back to Krishna. It's up to us. He facilitates. So that he does not he reciprocates with the desire of the conditioned souls. That's what Srila Prabhupada says. Desire is a subtle form of conditioning of the spirit soul. Hare Krishna. Is there something else? Then we will meet next week, the first part of the 6th chapter, which deals mainly with the mind. It's a very interesting chapter with a lot of spiritual techniques that are helpful in our devotional practice. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you.
Hare
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you.
Jai.